Welcome back to Third Eye Weekly. Today we're here with Niraj Naik, a former pharmacist who now helps get others off of long-term medications through holistic practices such as Ayurveda, meditation, and music therapy. Thanks so much for joining us today, Niraj.
It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So you were a former pharmacist. What prompted you to get out of that field?
So it was an element of serious disillusionment with the profession. The fact that I used to see people going away with shopping bags filled with medication every month, and it was just left me scratching my head, wondering, what's going on here? Why are people getting more and more sick and not better? And because I've always been kind of a spiritual hippie kind of person at heart. I used to run like a lot of music events. I was in a band and stuff. I could just see the problem. It was very apparent. Whereas other people just did their job, and I was a bit of a troublemaker, and I wanted to do something about it. So I decided to actually look for ways to actually help patients get off medication rather than onto them. And then one thing led to another, really.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the healing practices you use outside of medication?
Yeah, so when I was in the pharmacy, I had a very, very simple system because I discovered, and this is actually one of the oaths, that it's the Hippocratic oath that doctors should swear by, which is first do no harm. And Hippocrates, father of medicine, said that the actual source of most illnesses starts in the gut, and let food be thy medicine. So by treating people through diets should be the first method of healing a patient before resorting to medication. And Ayurveda, which is the ancient Indian system, also has the same fundamental premise, that is, change your diet first, then resort to medication, drugs as a last resort. But now in modern days, everything's the wrong way around. We treat people first with medication, and lifestyle is kind of, well, no one is really kind of in the conventional healthcare system, especially in the UK, trained on nutrition. And in fact, for a long time, we got the whole thing the wrong way around, saying that saturated fat causes heart disease, and the dietary fat relates to high cholesterol, and that causes heart disease. That was all completely the wrong way around for a long time. And now modern science, I've known about this for years, now modern science is telling us that that whole hypothesis was wrong all along, and actually it's the sugar that's the problem. So what I used to do was I used to get people off factory-based foods. They're very high in refined salt, processed sugar, things like that, and just made them have simple swaps. And one of the first things I noticed was there was a correlation between people on lots of fizzy drinks and blood pressure medication and things like statins and things that you normally give for heart disease. So just by because the easiest thing you can do is actually change somebody's drinks. Food can be a little bit harder. If you can change somebody's drink, just by changing a fizzy drink for something like fresh lemon juice with some honey just for taste, or getting them to drink green tea instead of coffee filled with sugar, for example. It's not easy to do that because not everyone likes the taste of green tea, but most people, when they're given the choice and they're given the consequences like laid out, as this is what could happen if you don't change, they tend to change, because they don't want to be taking drugs for the rest of their life. So I had this amazing result in the pharmacy, getting people off drugs, and I had like doctors phoning me up, patients phoning me up, asking what I was doing. It even got me promoted to the head office of one of the largest supermarkets in the UK to carry out a very incredible project, which could have been really amazing, save loads of lives. But then I won't go too deep on it, but things didn't quite happen. And I got even more disillusioned with the whole thing. And then I got a stress-related illness. And it was almost like I was now told that you have to apply this stuff on yourself. And you've got to become the role model for other people, the inspiration. It was almost like a weird kind of twist of fate. Because I was ready to give up. I was ready to succumb to conventional medicine, conventional medicine basically said you're going to be on drugs for the rest of your life. You might have to have surgery to have your whole colon removed. And I was like 10 months housebound, bleeding 15 times a day, hearing these words, and I wasn't going to take that as the answer. And so then I went back and started to really research and started to study people who had got well. I spent some time with a Swamiji in the UK, Swami Amritananda, who runs Traditional Yoga Association. She's actually Sting the Singer's guru. She runs a charity with him. And she taught me some incredible stuff, which you could now define as biohacks. So these are simple things you can do, like shortcuts for reducing stress, because stress is really the key thing that triggers most autoimmune conditions in people. So learning to manage stress using ancient kind of Ayurveda techniques, learning about nutrition, and then discovering my most incredible kind of lifesaver I recommend to everyone, something called colostrum, which is super powerful. We can talk about that a bit if you want as well. But yeah, it's just really a series of learning a few things about how to change your belief patterns, about how to calm stress down by using affirmations, breathing techniques to hyperoxygenate your system. And all that led to me getting well. And I have been, touch wood, for a very long time. And helped a lot of people too in the process.
It's incredible.
Thank God.
Yeah. So aside from some of these holistic practices and stress reducing meditations and breathing practices, looking into the nutrition side of things, were you really surprised to discover that sugary drinks were the cause of so many patients' health problems in this country?
You know what? It's kind of, if you take a back seat on everything that goes on in this day and age, it should be obvious that if you're putting a drink filled with chemicals into your system on a regular basis, it's going to cause you harm. But we're so kind of brainwashed, as it were, by the media into thinking that these are healthy. You know, putting the word diet on something, suddenly it's a healthy drink, right? And we're so kind of conditioned by the media. We actually will do this without listening to our own bodies. And our own bodies are giving us symptoms, okay, like high blood pressure, you know, obesity, putting on weight, feeling tired, lethargic, having chronic pain. You know, its body's always giving us symptoms saying, look, what you're doing, what your head's doing is completely not in line with what your body wants. So we always get these signals. And I knew, you know, that a lot of these people are on so many medications and they'll suffer from so many side effects of these drugs, that there had to be something that they're doing in their daily lives that was wrong. And when I started to do more research, there were a lot of people at this time, like we're talking 2005, 2006, these like kind of renegade doctors and researchers who were basically showcasing evidence. So look, this whole saturated fat causes heart disease debate is wrong. And the real cause of diabetes and metabolic diseases like obesity is actually sugar. It's the sugar. And then there's a lot of studies on high fructose corn syrup at the time. So I'd learned a lot of these things. And in fact, there's a Japanese paradox where Japanese, actually, they're the ones who invented high fructose corn syrup and shifted it over to the US, made a fortune out of it. But they wouldn't give it to their own population because they knew that after doing so, after a long time, there was a correlation between the number of strokes rising and heart attacks. So they stripped this whole low-fat diet out and replaced it back with their normal diet, which is quite high in fat, lots of omega-3s, good fats that is, very high in essential oils, and they live longer than anyone else. And when the American diet was introduced into Japan, and things like fast food chains started to be more common over there, what was happening was a real weird phenomenon that the grandparents were outliving their grandkids. All right, so that shows there's all these like things out there that shows that there's something wrong with consuming lots of sugar, you know. And then you got to talk about all the other things like the caffeine. Caffeine is actually put in medication because caffeine helps you absorb the drug better, right? Now, if you view a can of cola as a drug, okay, because it's super high in sugar, it's high in caffeine, because the caffeine is a drug in itself, and it's high in acids, right? Now, these things are going to create an effect in your system. And they're designed, all cola drinks are designed on the original Coca-Cola recipe, which actually had cocaine in it. And cocaine is actually a very highly addictive substance. Now, when cocaine got banned, they had to replace it with something else. So they replaced it with a very, very, very addictive formulation, because that was the only way that they could maintain the sales that they had. So cola is a very, very addictive drink by nature. So the problem is that now you're seeing kids, real high increases in childhood obesity. You know, it's a terrible problem. 1 in 3 kids in the UK are obese. Okay, so the amount of burden and strain we're going to have on the healthcare system here is like a ticking time bomb. You know, who knows what's going to happen if people aren't educated on the dangers, and if they're not viewing drinks like this as treats, then we're going to, you know, suffer the consequences as a nation, or a world, as it were.
Absolutely. It is a very dangerous issue. And following your research, you actually published a piece that went viral, which shows that people are taking interest into this dangerous issue. Can you tell us a little bit about how you put that article together, what it took to put that article together?
Yeah, I did 2. So I did one on Diet Coke and I did one on Coke itself. Now, the first one I actually did a long time ago, like several years ago. And it was actually based on, it was my kind of interpretation of an existing article that went semi-viral. It didn't, nowhere near the impact that I had. And all I merely was doing was commentating on what this guy Wade Meredith had written out. And I made it into a cool infographic because it would catch attention. I knew it would catch attention. But it's the truth told in an entertaining way. You know, it's a little bit sensational. It provokes curiosity. It makes you want to find out more. And really, people need to read my actual article as well, the full article, because that's where I put citations, I back up some of the claims. I talk about some areas that are sensational and what the real truth is. And then I sew in a lot of like advice on what you can do if you are addicted to drinks, or if you want to just cut down. You know, there are alternatives. So I do give a lot of that. A lot of that was taken out of context. And a lot of the media kind of represented it. So, you know, that's a shame, but you know, that's how big media is these days. But the Diet Coke one is even more compelling, because actually people thought that Diet Coke was, you know, was better as a healthy drink. You know, that a lot of people consider it, believe it or not, as a healthy drink. So, because it's got the word diet on it. Now, I wanted to show people that actually, that the studies actually show that Diet Coke could be even worse, because you consider it as a diet drink. You start taking other things, eating other things, because you think you're doing something healthy. You know, so there are also lots of other studies that show the problems with phosphoric acid, the way it linked to osteoporosis, how it can leach your nutrients, the whole combination of the acid, the caffeine, and all the other. I mean, if you look at the ingredients, I didn't even touch on some of the other ingredients in my infographics, such as the methanol and then a formaldehyde, you know, things like that. So really, all colas are a chemical vat, which give you a short-term buzz, which doesn't quench your thirst. If that's something you want to carry on doing, then fair enough. But would you rather have something that gives you a long-term buzz because you feel healthier, you're providing your body with lots of nutrients, and it hydrates you with vital water? Would you rather have that, or would you rather just rot your body away? I mean, that's the choice, right?
It's definitely a choice. How do you feel about Coca-Cola's recent campaign to fund scientists that are shifting the blame for obesity away from bad diets?
Yeah, like okay, so funnily, the day after, things has died down a bit, and my Diet Coke article gone major viral. 2 press releases came out. One that Pepsi was getting rid of aspartame, and another one which was about this Coca-Cola. And then another one that Coca-Cola just bought a company called Suja, which is meant to be a health drink as well. We'll see how long it stays healthy, but you know, that they did that as well. So there was definitely some kind of reaction from them, I'm sure. Now, when it comes to that specific article, read it and then let me know what you think. Like, it, to me, it just sounds really desperate. Like they are scraping the barrel. I mean, who is going to fall for that? Or are people? Because what they're doing is they're blaming people's diets. Okay. I mean, sorry, they're saying it's not the diet. They're saying it's the fact that people don't exercise. Now, my very close friend, she's a lady called Marissa Peer, and she is considered Britain's best therapist by Men's Health magazine, and she's got over 20 years history of getting people off, or helping them lose weight. Okay, she to this day puts very little emphasis on exercise because it's not the exercise that matters; it's the diet. She is a behavioral psychologist, and when you overeat, and if you eat the wrong things, it doesn't matter how much exercise you do. Because you got to imagine your body, right, as an engine. Okay, what happens when you put diesel into a petrol engine? Right, the whole thing chugs along. It doesn't work, right? The car breaks down. Okay, that's what people are doing all the time when they're eating factory foods. They're putting the wrong fuel into the bodies. So it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to exercise if you're feeling like, you know, unhealthy and filled with bad fuel. That's just one of the things. That's one of the points. That may be why people don't exercise, because then with the energy sick, you know, they can't be bothered to. The other thing is simply that exercise doesn't, the amount of calories you're consuming, you'd have to run like a marathon to burn it off. Okay, there are studies out there. You can see how much you need just to burn off a chocolate bar or a can of Coke. It's insane, like the amount of exercise you'd have to do, right? Most people don't have the time to do that compared to the amount that they consume. So it's a really bad argument, very desperate. It's a shame they have to do that. Why don't they just say, hey, you know, we get it. We'll change our formulas a bit. I don't know. You know? Or we'll stop advertising to kids. You know, that's all they need to do, really.
Well,
treat it like alcohol.
no money. That means less money for them. So that's unfortunate reality.
Yeah, that's the problem. Or maybe invest in healthier formulations, healthy drinks, you know, rather than churning out the same thing, because it's easy. Right? It's easy just to keep repeating the same bad thing over and over again, but it's not going to do us any favors. I don't think it is. Once in a while, it's okay. It's a treat, right? I'm not going to say I'll never drink Coke again. That would be a lie, because, you know, every now and then with, I don't know, it goes quite well with a JD, right? Nothing wrong with that. Okay, once in a while, but not every day. Like, kids drink like a liter bottle of Coke, you know, when they come home from school. Or they have it at school, you know, part of their school dinners. I don't know. You know, a lot of people go to McDonald's and have huge cartons of this stuff. It's when it goes into excess. That was the whole point of my whole campaign. It's like, let's kind of learn moderation, right? You know, and doing things like meditation and optimizing your health, and it makes you really aware of what's good for you and what isn't. You know?
Very true. Well, thank you for spreading that awareness. That's all the questions we have for today. Thanks so much for joining us today, Niraj. It was a pleasure.
All right. It's all good. I love your radio show. It's got a great name, Third Eye Radio.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
We'll be sure to send you a link to all this when it goes on the site in a couple days.
Fantastic. And check out the Renegade Pharmacist blog.
We'll have that on our homepage too.
Fantastic. Love it.
Awesome. Right. Well, have a great evening.
Take care.
Cool. You too, my friends.
Yeah.
Take it.